Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Hello, my friends. In the last week, we talked about the synchronous generator excitation. Today, we have an important lesson. It's called about the calling of synchronous generators. AC synchronous generator calling. Calling of synchronous generator is very essential. Natural cooling is not adequate to dissipate the great amount of heat produced in the alternators. In the forced air cooling system, air is forced into the alternator so that the greater quantity of air is passed over the surface and a large amount of heat is removed. The closed circuit ventilation system is used for better cooling of the synchronous generator. In the closed system, clean or hot air from the alternator is cooled by a water-cooled heat exchanger and forced through the alternator by fans, as shown. These fans it's used to cooling the alternator by the heat exchanger. Ducts are provided in the stator as shown. In the stators and the rotor cores, and also in the field coils of the generator or machine for increasing the surface area which is in contact with the cooling air. Depending upon the direction of the air flow, these ducts can be radial or axial. So, we have two of ventilation system, radial flow ventilation system. In the radial flow ventilation system, the cooling air enters the ducts through the stators, as shown in these pictures. It passes from the air filter and through the stator by way of the air gap and passes radially to the back of the stator from the where it's removed. What's the advantage of radial ventilation? 1. The energy loss for ventilation is minimum. 2. The system is applicable both to the small and large machine. Lamination of radial ventilation. What are the functions of the lamination of radial ventilation? It makes the machine less compact since ventilation ducts occupy about 20% of the armature length. 2. The heat dissipation is less as compared to the other system. In certain cases, the system becomes unsuitable because of the quantity of cooling air flowing through the machine. The second type of ventilation system is called axial flow ventilation system. In the method, the air is forced in the axial direction through passage from by the holes in the stator and the rotors. It's highly effective, except for machines with considerable axial length. The disadvantage of axial ventilation is non-uniform heat transfer. The air is outlet part of the machine. It's called less because the air in passing through the axial ducts has time to become heated. The third type, it's called circumferential ventilation. In this method, air is supplied at one or more points on the outer periphery of the stator core and forced circumferentially through the ducts between the laminations to suitable outlets. In this method, the duct area can be increased. In some cases, this method is combined with the radial flow system, but the resultant interface in the two streams of the air has to be avoided. For this, the alternating radial ducts are closed on the outer surface. Requirements for the cooling air. The air should be clean and free from dust. This will clog the ducts to reduce area, which results in reducing heat transfer by conduction. Air filters as shown. These filters, the air must be clean and has not any dust. So, to reduce the induction, air filters and cheesecloth filters are used. Sometimes air has to be washed in a spray chamber. In most cases, the air is cooled by water cooler and used again. Limitation of air cooling. For large capacity machines, the sizes of the fans required for circulation of air increase and require considerable power. Thus, auxiliary equipment are required. Which are expensive. There is an optimum rating of machine beyond which air cooling will not be able to keep the temperature within safe limits. Hydrogen cooling of synchronous generator. In hydrogen-cooled system, hydrogen gas is used as a medium for cooling. A detailed explanation is given in the article Hydrogen Cooling of Synchronous Generator. 1. Direct water cooling in the synchronous generator. As hydrogen cooling is not sufficient to extract heat generated in the large turbo alternators of sizes 500 megawatt or more. For such large machines, the volume of hydrogen gas required may be so large that its use may become uneconomical. In such cases, the direct water cooling is used. In very large turbo generators, rotor are direct hydrogen cooled and stator winding are direct demineralized water cooled. Water is circulated by an AC motor's centrifugal pump. Cartridge filters are used to filter water. These filters are designed to prevent metallic corrosive particles generated in winding and piping from entering into winding hollow conductors. Advantages of water cooling over hydrogen cooling. Water-cooled system is faster and more efficient because the thermal conductivity of water is higher than or that a hydrogen. 2. The duct area of water is smaller to allow more space for conductors in the slot. Disadvantages of water cooling. The water which is used for cooling should be highly purified so that the conductivity of water doesn't increase. 2. Water cooling is more expensive than hydrogen cooling. This is all about the cooling of synchronous generators, as shown in this picture. Thank you, my friends, for your listening.